think we'll get going, guys. Welcome again. My name is Paul Muñoz. I'm looking forward to this webinar and to really hear from these amazing directors and humans about their process through the recruiting journeys for their athletes as their clubs that they are affiliated with. Let's go ahead and go around, do a quick intro about ourselves, maybe some volleyball background, how long you've been running your club, or you've been a director. But we currently got Alex Griffiths from Apex out here in California. We got Adam Bromberg from Vegas Volley in Nevada, and we got Bryan Paliza from 630 out in Illinois. Bryan, do you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, so thanks for being here. Thanks for having us. And so I'm in my second full season of being the boys director for 630 Volleyball. I've been coaching for 20 plus years, a wide swath of experience, right? As far as club, high school, and then the USA Pipeline when it was called High Performance before it is now known as NCDP. So gotten to know quite a few coaches along the way and excited to pass along knowledge and experience and help my athletes get on their journey.
Awesome. Thank you. Adam.
Yeah, hi, I'm Adam. I'm the club director of Vegas Volley, like Paul said, out here in Nevada and Las Vegas. So I'm coming up on my 19th anniversary since I started coaching volleyball. That includes both boys, girls, club, high school, everything in between. So I really appreciate you bringing me on, Paul. I'm glad to be a part of this and kind of help share how Sports Recruits has supported us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Coach Alex.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alex. Just a little bit of playing experience. I was able to play for the University of Hawaii on the indoor as well as beach team. And then played a little bit pro, came back full circle. Grew up watching Paul at the Long Beach State and had him coach me during the summer camps back in the day. And then been coaching for a while now. 10 years at Cypress High School, going on year 9 with Apex One Volleyball Club. And then I currently coach Westcliff men's volleyball, Westcliff University, and this is year 5 for me. So I've been really fortunate to work with Paul and Sports Recruits.
I love that. And a little bit about myself. And it's kind of cool how the network of volleyball continues to grow with all of us. And it's kind of helped shaped our future, our past with volleyball. But a little bit about myself too. I definitely have a volleyball background. I played at Long Beach State, played with the national team during the Quad of Beijing. I played overseas a couple years. And then when I was done playing, I actually started my own volleyball club many moons ago. I ran that for about 9 years out here in Southern California. Transitioned that, trying to pursue coaching, right? Coached through high school, junior college, and then finished my last season back at Long Beach State, helping the team win a national championship in 2018. Now I'm at SportsRecruits, pretty much running and managing all the volleyball accounts, and I love it. And I love everything about what SportsRecruits has to offer these athletes. I think it's important to note, like, I honestly, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but when I ran my volleyball club, I guess now since I'm able to reflect on the past, my thorn in the side was always that I wasn't able to give my athletes what they needed in regards to recruiting. I didn't use a service. There was always that taboo against services and such. And so a lot of my players were D3 and NAIA players. And I didn't have those D1 level players at that time, but my connections were. And so software like Sports Recruits, that would have definitely helped bridge that gap from my athletes that were D3 NAI that still wanted to pursue college ball. I could have used our software. So let's go around, and if you guys have any ideas, what is your current role through your athletes recruiting journeys right now? Go ahead, Bryan.
Yeah, so being the boys director, obviously I get to be and hang and chat with all of my athletes from 13s to 18s. And obviously, we know the recruiting process really gets going at the back end of the sophomore year, 16s. So we have what we call town hall meetings, right? Where we'll guide the athletes that are even slightly remotely interested in playing at the next level. We'll get them to come in and we'll talk them through like, hey, this is kind of how it goes. This is your timeline. This is your checklist, etc. And then we talk about sports recruits and how it's super, super helpful and beneficial. And it's basically a one-stop shop. So we walk them through all that. And, I get to, I get to have a big hand in their recruiting journey and making sure that they're answering those questions or answering the email replies back in a timely manner. And yeah.
Those email responses, I think kids need to understand it is so important to respond quicker than later. And sometimes they don't get to it quick enough. And that says a lot about them, to be honest. Adam, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. So as club director, I feel like my role in their recruiting journey is as a mentor, right? Because
Yeah.
where that was inspired is because when I was in high school myself, I didn't have that mentorship. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have parents who were collegiate players at any point. And even if I did, their processes would have probably been outdated by the time I played. So I think mentorship's huge because the kids just don't know what they're doing. And to your point about the emailing, that's a perfect example of how Sports Recruits has helped support us because, I love that at the admin level, I can see the messaging up and back between the kids because there's a variety of things that they have to be mentored on. Even things like basic grammar, like, hey, you're not texting a friend. This is a professional email to a coach, spelling matters, capitalize the first word in the sentence.
Right.
And then to your point further of responding timely, right? They don't know these things. They're simple things to us as adults, but like the kids need to be mentored and they need to be taught. And so I feel like that's kind of what my role has been, is not doing it for them, but like making sure they're on their game.
Totally. Alex, I know like just from personal experience with you, you take pride in mentoring your athletes from start to finish. And that is probably one of the best qualities that I've seen in you as a club director. Your girls look at you for advice, mentorship. What type of mentoring, I guess, would you say is important through that recruiting process for you guys specifically at Apex One?
I think it's imperative as a director to have that mentorship. Gus, who's the other director, and myself, where he's the firstborn, I'm the only child. And so we did all the do's and don'ts by experiment, learning the correct way of how to do things and not do things correctly. And we figured out the hard way. Both of us have transferred. So I think just understanding there's a school for everybody and just having the due diligence to do that work. And like you said, Sports Recruits gives that platform. I think we have a pretty good network, but the beauty of the sport's grown so much. There's over 300 schools in Division I alone for women's volleyball. We don't know everyone. And for these players to have those opportunities of networking. And for me and Gus and Tanae, we find it that is our job.
Absolutely.
Main goal is all of our 18s getting signed, whether it's JUCO, Division I, NAIA, T2. If they want to play, we got to help them get there. That's our job.
Love it. How do you guys feel that the landscape of the recruiting process has changed within the last couple of years? I remember when I was playing, I mean, God, we could laugh about this many moons ago. And it was like, if a college coach wasn't at your court, like I thought for sure I was never getting anywhere in my life. I was like done with volleyball. I was the worst player. And these kids don't understand. And I feel like it's changed in a sense that you have to be proactive and you have to be out there. But like coming to the past couple years, like how do you feel like it's changed for you guys?
Can I answer that one, Paul?
Please.
Only because I was thinking of something as you're talking about coming to the courts, and because this is something that was a learning curve for me, being a smaller and newer club. We're going into our 5th year. The fact that it platforms like Sports Recruits and how digital the recruiting process has become has opened up an environment where I feel like kids can find the best club for them. They don't have to go to one of the big brand names to get noticed anymore. They can still communicate through Sports Recruits. Because there are definitely, kids that in the past, I think, chose clubs for the wrong reasons, right? They chose them because they thought it would be where they'd get exposure, things like that. And it wasn't the place they could thrive and grow into a player capable of playing at the collegiate level. Because maybe it was, too big a place where they were just a number on a spreadsheet or whatever the reason may be. But I think that's a really cool way the recruiting process has changed. Because to your point, where you're like, oh, if a coach wasn't at my court back then, coaches would only go to the courts of clubs they were familiar with, which were the big giant juggernauts in the industry. And the guys that played for clubs like mine never got looks. And now it's changed. So
Love that. And what about Bryan? What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean,
I mean, you're well connected with the whole ODP. I mean,
yeah.
what have you heard through your connections with coaches? How it's changed?
I mean, it's changed a little bit, right? Like the cool thing about boys men's volleyball is just how connected everybody is. Like once you get to network and just chat with everybody, right? Like Adam and I were talking about coaches social coming up tomorrow night at Chi-Town, and like just those little things were just a hello and all that, and then you just start talking about athletes, right? That I don't think that piece has changed, because once you make that connection with a collegiate coach, they'll ask you like, hey, you got anybody, right? Without even going on sports recruits or any other platforms they may be looking at, right? Or do you know of anybody? Which is really cool about it too. Like I'm always willing to share, like, hey, I might not have somebody, but somebody else might, and you might want to just give it a look, right? And I think just having those connections, those I find those to be the ones that haven't changed, right? But like as Adam pointed, or is the digital stuff is it's pretty next level. And yeah, like if the coach isn't at your court, right? Like they'll find a way if they really want to get their eyes on somebody or just whatever it may be. So
Yeah,
it it is ever changing, and it's pretty neat. And I think it keeps our guys accountable. Like, hey, we got to be on our stuff, even though so and so coach isn't here, right? Like they could be watching somehow, right? Like they could
yeah,
have a ball TV account, like, oh, where's so and so if he's not on the bench, or if he's not on the court, what's he looking like on the bench, etc. All that stuff. We could go down a rabbit hole, but
yeah. I
yeah,
think it's amazing how so many of these players that are on the twos teams are getting picked up to go play D2 or even D1 level, lower level D1, because they have highlight reels, because they're getting a lot of playing time and they're getting motivated to get out there and do that research themselves on schools. I absolutely love the whole roster needs portion of sports recruits, because that's like a huge starting point. That comes from the college coaches. It comes from them, inputting that information. Nobody on sports recruits does that. And what a great place to be at if you're a twos player or even on a ones team that you're just like, I don't know where to go. Where do I start? Boom, roster needs on sports recruits.
yeah,
So,
In
Paul, that's probably one of the best features, I think, because the way I've
yeah,
always compared it with our athletes is I'm like, with college recruiting, it's like you're interviewing for a job. You could be a great candidate, but if that business doesn't have an open position, then you're not getting the job, right? Same
yeah,
with college recruiting, right?
yeah,
So that feature is huge, I think.
right. Hey, Coach Alex, I know mostly, I mean, gosh, when we were playing, it was always like you don't start the recruiting process until like your 17th, 18th year. I've talked to college coaches. I think that landscape in volleyball recruiting, whether coaches want to admit it or not, has changed significantly. What's your thoughts on timing for college coaches on when they begin their recruiting process, or when your athletes should start sports recruits or at least getting going on their recruiting process?
I definitely think the younger generations is where the recruiting's starting because of the roster cap. Closing at 18 really plays a big effect. So I have some couple of student athletes that are exceptional, but due to the fact that we've capped at 18, their 2026, 27 is right now closed. So the earlier the better. I do know that college coaches do look at potential. It's not just based off of pure talent at that time. So it's always good to start earlier. I'm also pretty reasonable telling the girls, like, obviously, if they're not, top players in the nation at that point, it's not the end of the world. But like you said, like squeaky wheel does get the oil in a sense, where they want to know you're invested in the program, taking time to do the due diligence of that, to go forward in your recruiting process.
I mean, that's like brings up a perfect point too. It's like the squeaky wheel, right? And I know a lot of athletes that message coaches and then all of a sudden they don't hear back from them and they're like done, one and done, right? Like over it. They feel like defeated. How do you keep your players motivated in a situation like that? Where, or parents saying like, hey, I've emailed this coach, but they haven't responded back to me. How do you do that?
I can speak on that. You already know liberos. Dave Shoji used to say we're a dime a dozen. So it's very common if you're not the top athlete, the top prospect. Like our job is to keep our due diligence and do emails until they give you a direct no. And even then, there's sometimes opportunities to get your chance. I think resilience plays a big part in this journey and having that grit to keep pursuing it. College coaches, sometimes their recruiting hour to look at recruiting emails is 9 to 10. And maybe during that time, your email didn't come through at that time. That doesn't mean they're not interested. It's just they're very, very busy people. And they need to be patient with the process. And until they hear a direct no, then they need to keep pursuing that. And I even recommend having athletes call.
Oh, nice. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a big point for maybe younger club directors or newer club directors to hear from an actual college coach or someone that's been on staff at Long Beach State like yourself has, Coach Alex. They're allotted a specific amount of time throughout the day where they are checking those emails. And if your email, the player's email gets sent to them not on those off hours, then they're not seeing it. And I think that as a club director, that's so valuable to know and to just reiterate to your players, keep messaging until you hear that hard no. Coach Bryan, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Alex hit the nail right on the head, right? It's just how bad do you want it, right?
Yeah.
If you want it, then hey, let's just keep grinding, let's keep going, right? It's just like that same thing on the volleyball court, right? How much do you want it? So you just keep going until, like Coach Alex said, until you hear a hard no, and if it is what it is, right? Like it just it wasn't meant to be, right? But if you want it, there will be a place out there.
Yeah. What is going back to Sports Recruits now? How have you guys integrated Sports Recruits software? I know how I would integrate it as a club director if I reran my club all over again. How have you guys integrated it thus far within your program?
It's included in my club tuition. So for us, like now it's included as a asset to play for us at Apex. Again, I think just talking to you, like I believe 100% that if they're playing, we need to give these student athletes the opportunity, even if they're not sure. It's better to try it and know that, okay, after a year, you don't want to continue the sport. But there are so many pros to being a student athlete in college, priority in classes, free tutoring, everything. It takes, it's really, really a great resume builder even too to go forward if you're not even trying to play pro. So I always tell the kids to try it and then, you can always take a step away. But I think a lot of kids are usually just scared, or they don't think they can hang, but not realizing they are capable of that. And that's our job to encourage that.
Love it. Coach Adam?
Yeah, so we also build it into the program for every team 15 and
Smart.
up. It's just built in. They're paying for it whether they want to or not. But as far as getting them to use it, that's a little bit more challenging. At the beginning of the season, we will for sure have like a group meet. The gym we operate out of has this big meeting room area where we can put it up on the TV and have them all bring a laptop, iPad, something. So they have to set up their profiles at the very least. So, what they do with it from there, we encourage it. It's a little bit hard once you get into the nitty gritty of the season, once the tournaments start rolling, practices start rolling, to actually stay on top of them regularly. But, we make sure that they have it and it's set up.
Nice. Coach Bryan, how's it going for you guys? You guys are fairly newer on the platform. How are you guys integrating it?
Yeah, so like Coach Alice and Coach Adam, well, we do have it within their season fees as well. and kind of all similar, right? Like we also have girls program as well. It's smaller side of things for our club, and um, they're really newer to the whole recruiting thing, right? So about the few that I've already talked to, obviously we'll get all their stats and all that stuff. And then when I show them the platform and I show them the whole filtering thing, they're like, holy smokes, this really
Right.
is one-stop shop. And I'm like, all right, we gotcha. Now
Yeah.
do some work, right? Like now
Yeah.
this is where your grind begins, but like it's all here. It's literally all here for you. So that's where we're at.
Nice.
I think just over like the last 2 years, it's been pretty impressive that we've had girls and boys sign to schools, like I said, that we haven't really heard of just due to we do have networking, but the sport has grown so much. And so that opportunity has grown. And so it's been great to use that platform into our club.
Nice. What advice, what advice would you give volleyball athletes when they first start the recruiting journey? What are some ways? I know for me specifically, it would be keep your options open. Let's just attack everybody and anybody, depending on obviously where you want to play volleyball in college and at what level. If you have a specific need or want, and I don't want to go to the Midwest and I want to stay on the West Coast, then of course, attack the West Coast. But me looking back now, when I think about my recruiting journey, if I had something like this, I would have just hit up everybody. I was that type of athlete. I didn't care where I would play. I just wanted to play ball. I wanted to get an education. I didn't want my parents to have to pay for it, even though they did, no matter what, because volleyball on the men's side is you're having to pay for your education. But I would have left my options open. What about you guys? What advice do you give your young athletes coming in that want to play ball?
I think, like I said, all the way at the beginning, making sure you have a mentor, whether it's your team coach or someone at the director level, right? Because, I know Alex has mentioned a few times that there are schools that we haven't even heard of yet that are on the Sports Recruits platform. And what I've run into, Vegas isn't quite yet known to be a volleyball powerhouse. Like we get a couple of those kids that go off to big schools here and there, but for the most part, we don't have those huge players. And a lot of the kids that I've worked with over the years feel like they can't play in college. They're not good enough to play in college because what they see on TV are only the giant schools, right? They're not seeing all these schools that, Alex was alluding to. And, as a result, my 18s boys this season, I'm pretty sure at this point, the entire roster, at least all the seniors on it, we have a couple guys playing up, but I think all the seniors are at least talking to one school. And I don't know if I've heard of any of them.
That's the best part too,
Yeah,
right?
but they are talking to schools. They have found schools that are interested in them
That's cool.
nonetheless, right?
That's
So
great. Bryan, what about you?
Yeah, excuse me. Sorry, guys. Um, Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the persistence, right? Kind of like again, like what Adam and Alex have been saying, and you know, um, open mind, all that good stuff, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, we all want the national champions or the runner up or D this, D that, but the biggest thing, like I guess I really hit on is you got to have like an idea of a major, right? Like, because at the end of it, you're still going there as you're a student athlete, right? You're not just going to get to play ball, right? So have an idea, right? And like, yeah, if you're looking at one school, it doesn't have anything that remotely interests you, or you're weak at whatever subject, and that's what they offer, then it's probably not going to be a good idea. Like, you should probably just X that out. But yeah, that's probably something I harp on a lot, is let's just have an idea. Unless if they already know, fantastic, but let's at least have a couple ideas of what we want to get after.
Yeah. As we talk through like that filter system on sports recruits, and I always talk when I'm selling the software, I'm sure I've reached out to everybody on this Zoom, but we're talking about finding the right fit, right? If they're looking to go academically, why not search that school to see if they have a volleyball program that they could potentially walk onto, or even get a little change academically to go to that school and continue to play volleyball. So what does finding the right fit generally mean to you guys as a club directors, to your athletes?
I mean, the biggest things I hear are academics and geographic, right? And
Right.
so that's why I think the filters on sports recruits are so important. We have some players who are very academic and things of that sort, and have ambitions to be in the medical field or whatever else. So,
Right.
I think that goes into finding the right fit for all the kids.
Good.
I've had a couple athletes talk about school size, right? And then
Oh, interesting.
yeah, and then they'll also wonder like if they have Greek life, and I mean I don't think that's on the sports recruits. It might be. I apologize if it is, but and I'm just like, all right, well that's certainly something we should look into, right? Like if that's going to be important to you or something you're interested in, right?
Yeah.
If you don't see it right away on sports recruits, like we'll have to do a little bit more research, and that should be expected, right? That's what you probably would have done without sports recruits. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have had a couple questions or concerns or issues or ideas around that. So I was like, okay, then let's look into that.
Yeah. Coach Alex, anything on that?
I just agree with you, Paul, in the sense of like keeping our options open. I think that plays a really big part in the recruiting process because at the end of the day, they don't know what's out there. And so I think just being open-minded, but two is obviously your major if you know, but for me, I wanted to play volleyball in college. That's what I knew. And so I think when you get to that point, you need to be very aware of the coach and the culture of what you're looking into and see if that plays a part. If you like the coach, or do they plan on staying there for the years that you're going to be there in attendance,
Yeah.
and things like that. And that I know is not can be contacted through sports recruits. And so for me, once you start engaging with the coaches, these are questions that are huge that you want to know that you're going to be, playing and stuck with for the next 4 years, hopefully. So you want to be
Right.
set for 4 years.
Coach Alex, Coach Adam, you guys came on to Sports Recruits roughly around the same time, 3 years ago, I want to say now. Coach Bryan, you just implemented the software to your organization. What are some major differences that you've seen from pre-Sports Recruits to now?
Say that one more time. Like from before we use sports recruit?
Before you use Sports Recruits to now, what are some differences that you've seen within your recruiting journeys within your club?
The biggest thing is access, right? Being able to access all these different schools and coaches and things of that sort, seeing that the coaches actually respond to our kids. They actually get messages back, even if they're thanks but no thanks messages. But I mean, we have had sports recruits since our inception, so I can't really speak to before.
Oh, that's right.
I had it. Yeah, it's your fault, Paul. You sold me early.
But I mean, it was worth it. Totally. They why are you laughing, Bryan? Did they already tell you how I was selling them over? I've been trying to
Uh,
get you guys on for a long time at 630.
I was there over the spring, summer when I was.
I know you guys are an amazing club. Yeah, I love that.
So for us, I've seen a sense of urgency now from the athletes,
Yeah.
right? Except with the exception of like our top athletes, they've been on it. But right, so then the whatever level you want to call it, but like now they see like the filters and how accessible things are, and they're like, oh man, all right. I see every night there's a recap, those emails of like so and so's reached out to so and they've gotten a response. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like we're getting on it, right? Like hopefully we stay on it, right? As the season goes on, and if they continue to want it, so definitely a sense of urgency has been phenomenal.
The fact that you guys can see the views of the coaches that are viewing their profiles, videos, and transcripts, those aren't yeses. And I think you need to understand as a club director and coach and athlete, if a college coach views your profile, videos, or transcripts, that doesn't mean they want you. That just means they're looking. And that's all you can honestly ask for, I feel like, when you reach out to a college coach, is that they click the link boom, your profile's dialed in, and then they're able to look at all your videos. I feel like that's huge. I feel like the fact that you guys don't need to be CC'd on any emails anymore, as long as it's being sent through the software, you still get that transparency of what they're sending to their coaches, what they're sending to other coaches, what they say, what coaches respond. So I love that. Absolutely. Coach Alex?
Um, yes, the urgency, and I think too also the access to how quickly our kids can now send out emails,
Yeah.
just through the availability of all the schools located on one website. And that's huge. You know, before me and you, we had to go find, look, a little bit different. And so now it's a lot quicker to have a lot more opportunities, which plays a big part because, like you said, we can't get closed-minded. Like, this is their future. They got to be open and have many schools on deck to see what's their best. And at the end of the day, to be weighing out their pros and cons and picking from there. So that's huge. I think I really appreciate that. And then two, you're not paying thousands of dollars for someone to do the work. At the end of the day, the kids should be doing the work. And we, like you guys always say, like, the mentor should be helping and directing it. Like, this is their process. This is their recruiting work. And this is all reasonable. And that's why we joined with you, Paul.
I think that's a good point too, because I feel like with every club, you guys can mentor each your own way, right? And whatever works for you and your athletes, that makes sense. I know some club directors that are all in on it, that are fully engulfed in it, that are sending emails on behalf of their players, that are fully reaching out to college coaches. And then I also know some club directors that are like, boom, check the box. I give this access to the players. It's up to them now. What is your role in your club? How are you mentoring those athletes, or are you just giving it up to them and their families to handle it all?
I'll go first. Coming from a college coach, I don't like when other people email on the kids' behalf. I feel like it looks, I mean, one, I do know that directors do care, and I appreciate that. But if the kid doesn't show interest, then why am I reaching out to them? You know,
Fair.
unless they're the top recruit in the nation. So for me, I do think it needs to show a part on the student athlete side, because the coach does need to know that it's coming from the student, that they want to play for that coach, not just coming from a general submission.
Yeah.
And so I always do that. And then once the kid does reach out, then obviously we do our part and follow up, like, hey, this kid's great. We definitely recommend him or her. But I think for the biggest part is they definitely need to do their part, you know.
And you feel Sports Recruits offers that capability.
Yes, definitely do. And then I usually have, like you said, once we see it, I can reach out to that coach and be like, totally recommend this kid for your program.
What do you do in regards to like helping them with their email formats and stuff?
We have basically a general email format, and we help them just basically fill in the blanks. The more efficient without doing the long letter is the best, because coaches don't have a lot of time. So you
Right.
want to get straight to the point. You want to do your accolades. You want to do, you know, what you know about the program, and essentially put all your highlights together in those bits and pieces, right? All this,
Yeah.
if you're a libero, serve, receive, defense together, and then finishing maybe with serving or out of system setting.
Right. You know what I love about the platform too is the fact that each of the school profiles on Sports Recruits gives a description, cost, school ratios, students to teacher ratios and such. And we actually give you access to their website. So it's like really seamless for them to be able to click into the website, do their own little research to input that type of information into their emails to show that they are actually looking into the school and not just reaching out blankly. Coach Bryan, what are some of the ways that you mentor them?
If anything, not much different from what Coach Alex was saying, right? It 100% athlete led. But as far as like the emails and stuff, we do have a template that we share with them. Um, that they could use should they want to. But I always ask them if, hey, if you're not comfortable or if you got questions on your emails, draft something,
Mhm.
send it my way, and we'll look it over. Um, but other than that, yeah, 100% athlete led. And then once the coaches reach out to us, if they do, certainly, well, I'll let them know, exactly
Right.
what they want to know about said athlete.
And Sports Recruits actually offers those those resources as well, which I feel like sometimes goes unnoticed or untalked about in our help desk. And we have a help article for practically everything, every feature, every question that anybody could have that pertains to the website, whether it's emailing coaches, drafting up an email, all that kind of stuff. SportsRecruits does offer that, which is pretty cool. Adam, anything further on how you manage the platform and mentor your athletes?
The mentoring is more or less the same thing. We don't have an email template because I want the kids' personalities to show through, but I'll give them guidelines on like, hey, here's the points that you should hit, right? Things of that sort. And I think they often overlook what Alex also mentioned about like something about the program itself, knowing that, you've actually looked at what they're about and know something about them. So
Right. Good. Awesome. Let's go ahead and we'll kind of lean towards the end of this. Appreciate everybody. If you guys do have questions, I think it is important to note, feel free to throw them in the chat. And then I'll be able to help answer any of the questions that you guys have, okay? How do you guys encourage your athletes and staff to make recruiting part of your club's true DNA? How is that one way? I mean, when I ran my club, recruiting wasn't a top priority. I didn't quite understand how to do it. I didn't have the tools to manage it. Now, since a platform like SportsRecruits has continuously evolved, I mean, we're talking about when you message coaches, you get a response back from those coaches, right? We get close to 90, if not more than 90% of every Division 1 to Division 3 program logging on to SportsRecruits monthly. I think that that's huge. So including it into your club's DNA, how do you guys make that a big part?
I can go. I think that's a huge asset for being a club director and having kids wanting to come to you, is knowing that you can help funnel them to the next step. At the end of the day, they are competing for a reason. Yes, it's to win these tournaments and that, but you want to be able to filter them to the next level. And hopefully have them come back and be able to coach at your club. So it's giving them that resource and opportunity. So for me, I think it should be identified as that personally as a club, that we should all be able to funnel these kids, especially with the sport growing. And so I think SportsRecruits has done a phenomenal job helping make that network even bigger and that access. So for us, we require it, and then we have our staff help out. And all of our staff has played collegiately. We're professionals, so we all know like this is the goal.
Yeah.
So they have to get to the next step. But that's our job.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, to answer your question, Paul, as far as building it into the DNA of the club, I think just integrating it throughout different elements of the club life, if you will. So what I kind of mean by that is, we're headed to the Chi-Town Boys Challenge. We're flying out tomorrow, right, to Chicago.
Love it.
So earlier this week, as I'm, presenting all the guys, here's our schedule, here's our this, here's our that. We also include that reminder, hey, now's the time. Like start emailing some coaches you've been talking to, let them know you're going to be there, send them your schedule, stuff like that. So
do you just have them send them day one schedule, Coach Adam?
Well, I know. I know we talked about this often, so you already know the answer. But no, right? So the initial message, hey, here's my schedule on day one. And I told them straight up, I'm like, as soon as day one's over and you got your day two schedule, send a follow-up, especially if they didn't come to your court and watch. Be like, hey, would still love to have you come watch us. Here's our schedule for day two. That way you can keep in that constant communication because, a lot of the times the kids are like, well, I don't know what to say, if I haven't heard back. What do I say in a follow-up message? I'm like, that's an easy way for a follow-up message. Hey, here's my schedule for day two. So I think just kind of, like I said, building it into other elements of the club is how you kind of build it into the DNA.
Yeah. So it's like systematic almost, Yeah,
exactly. It becomes part of the system.
Cool. Coach Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, nothing too much different from the other coaches there. I don't think my coaches all are on sports recruits with their athletes. But certainly, like, we encourage them to be part of it and obviously get their story, understand of what their dreams, wants, or needs are, like, next level. Yeah, should they want to move on. So, um, and to be able to have those conversations with coaches, because I might not always be available at all the courts or our other
Right.
staff members. So we want them to be able to advocate for their athletes as well.
Love it.
I
We had a
totally,
Go
I
ahead.
totally forgot. Also, too, what we do is we put the town hall meetings on our calendar, and we make sure that they're showing up and making it mandatory. So even if they don't want to go play at the next step, maybe hearing it might change their mind. So
Yeah.
we also integrate what Sports Recruits offers and put it on our calendar to keep them going and motivated. The town hall meetings, check-ins with you, however it may be. So I apologize, I forgot about that.
Well, that's great. We had a question pop in the chat. How does it help? What level of school is this most effective for in regards to recruiting? What level of Division 1, 2, 3, NAI, JUCO? And my first instinct response to that, just obviously off the tip of my tongue, is Sports Recruits is free for college coaches to use. I feel like it is most effective for all levels. I mean, I see girls that are getting views from Pitt, from UCLA's, from the USC's all the time on Sports Recruits. And so my personal experience with it and just seeing how useful it is because it's free and we get that high percentage of college coaches coming on to Sports Recruits. My understanding is that it would be great for everybody. Um, Bryan, Alex, Adam, what's your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. So I was just going to say, I do see that my athletes get responses from those big schools, like you mentioned, Paul. But I think where it has additional effectiveness is actually at those lower levels, because those are the ones that really have recruiting needs, right? Like, because the schools that you mentioned, the USC's of the world and Long Beach State and places like, they got their pick of pretty much whoever they want, right? So, for me, as like I said, a smaller club, like, we don't have kids going off to schools like those. So I think it's additionally effective. I don't want to say more or less, but additionally effective for the schools that have higher needs than those big schools do. And also the kids that have higher needs, because they're not the ones being actively recruited. They need to do their own recruiting effort. So I would kind of lean actually more towards D2 and below being
Amazing.
more effective if I had to go one way or the other.
Yep.
Yeah, I 100% agree with Adam on that one. Like, a lot of the I guess heavy recruiting that's been happening with our athletes, boys and girls, has been the D2 and below, right? So now those conversations are starting to ramp up, and as we head into the heavier part of our schedule, like, I'm sure more and more will happen. And unfortunately, we do have the higher level D1 athletes that are still being recruited as well. But yeah, I see a lot more two and below.
Cool.
I think it
Cool.
Sorry. I think it just depends on the athlete's skill set. I
Oh,
think there's opportunities in all categories. I think it does sound more D2, D3, and NAI because there's a lot more players in those categories and a lot more opportunities. But I think it doesn't matter as long as your kid's skill sets, if they're meant to, if they have the level to play D1, you'll get recruited on Sports Recruits D1. If they're D2, NAI, D3, then they're going to get recruited that way. I really just think it depends on the kid's level.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you guys so much coming on and just talking shop about recruiting, Sports Recruits, college ball, sharing your experiences as club directors, as club owners. I think that it goes without said how valuable it is for these newer club directors that are coming on. I didn't have anybody looking over me saying, "Hey, this is how you should run your club. This is how you should run your program." So all these little bits of information that you guys are passing on is just helping build the volleyball space even better than what we're leaving it at. My final last question to you guys would be to those smaller, newer clubs. they want to build a stronger foundation for the recruiting success. What's one piece of advice you would give to them being in the game as long as you guys have?
I mean, this is going to sound like it's a loaded answer because of the webinar we're on, but I would say outsource stuff and use platforms like SportsRecruits because, I can speak from the small club perspective. I know I've mentioned a few times that we're smaller, like for reference, just on size, we've got 8 teams in the program. So we are kind of leaning smaller. We're not like brand new, but, I don't have it in my capacity as director to do it all. So being able to like outsource certain things like SportsRecruits, it has been huge.
Love that. And that kind of just goes to, go ahead. Coach Alex, anything? Coach Bryan?
I was just gonna say, just be persistent and keep mentoring your athletes to if should they want it, right? Keep showing them, keep pushing them towards that, right? Because they do got to do all that. They do got to do the work, right? They do have to recruit for themselves, right?
Yeah.
And this obviously it's a great platform to be on, and it they're not gonna do it unless they're shown, right? And
Yeah.
so to have these kind of conversations, to have town halls, to have presentations, whatever it is, meetings within your club, like it's going to be super beneficial.
Thank you.
I think for the smaller clubs, I think we have to stand out in different ways. And so for us, we need to win in the recruiting aspect, especially if that's the end game for a lot of these athletes or if they're not sure, what sets them apart. And so, like, winning on the court is great, but you can have top players not get to the next step. Essentially, we're not doing them a favor. So I think being able to funnel the athletes plays a huge part in kind of what you represent and what your club represents. And you want to be known for taking care of your kids. And I think
Right.
having this platform shows that it's not just a business. It's not about wins and losses. It's about helping their kid get to the next step. And so for me, I think it's fundamental, like it's a no-brainer. It's a necessity that you need to have, regardless if you're big or small, because, we need to give these kids these opportunities.
100%. You guys rock, man. I'm so happy and so grateful for you guys to come on and share your knowledge. These people are so fortunate and lucky to have been able to listen to you guys. Again, if you guys are interested in learning more, you guys that are on the webinar, feel free to reach out to me. I have a calendar link attached. I'd be happy to run through the platform and show you, all the features and values that we do have. Ultimately, I always say you're buying back your time as a club director. By investing in something like SportsRecruits for your program, you're freeing yourself up to do more of the things that you love to do within your program and help getting your players to the next level. Coach Alex, Coach Bryan, Coach Adam, appreciate you guys and best of luck at the Chi-Town Challenge.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Paul.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
You got it. Talk soon. Bye, guys.